What's up everyone, it's Karthik with MoneyVest. So we are going to be talking about Palantir in this video, and I assure you this is the type of analysis that you're most likely not going to find anywhere, because we are going to be talking about the road to $1 trillion for Palantir. What is it going to take for Palantir to go from $82 billion, that's the market cap right now as of this moment. So if you come over here, we're now hitting over $37 per share, a new 52-week high for Palantir. It's up over 400% from its lows from back at $6 per share back in December of 2022. The quarter turned, became profitable, gap profitability. It's actually now up over 522%. Market cap sitting at well over $81 billion. So that's what we're going to discuss, the road to $1 trillion for Palantir. If there is a path, I'm going to go over exactly what Palantir needs to do in order to get to that level, because, you know, there's going to be a lot of hopium, I should say. There's going to be a lot of euphoria. There's going to be a lot of greed in the market. So I really want to come here, give you guys objective analysis and make the numbers make sense. Let the math do the work and do the talking, and we can have a discussion, we can have a debate around whether Palantir can actually get to that $1 trillion club or not. So hope you all enjoyed this video, find it helpful. Make sure that you drop a like and share this video with your other Palantir investors, traders, other friends, family members, whoever wants to take a look at this entire analysis. I would really appreciate that. We're trying to grow this channel up to 100,000 subscribers, so I would really appreciate you guys sharing this video as well. First, let's just go over to some updates. So Nebraska Medicine and Palantir announced a partnership to use AI technology to advance healthcare. So this actually came out earlier today, and that's why stock's up a little bit over 2%. So Nebraska Medicine, a $2.5 billion academic health system based in Omaha, a national leader in healthcare innovation, today announced a new multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract for Palantir's artificial intelligence platform, so AIP, to help improve healthcare through transformational technologies. And Bank of America also adding Palantir in their US 1 stock list. So this right here was the entire research report from Bank of America. Palantir is boosting on-the-ground transformation missions in real time, and this right here is going to be their expectations for earnings per share going all the way through 2026. Some price to earnings multiple over here, which is going to be well in the 60s to as much as 84, 104. Again, some very expensive multiples, as we already know that Palantir trades at over 30 times sales and well over 90 to 100 times earnings multiple for the company. But they essentially mentioned that the inclusion in the S&P 500 is one of the reasons why also Bank of America is rating them as their top investment idea. But they also mentioned that the company is very misunderstood, and this is a recognition affirms Palantir's positioning as a serious company with the potential to grow tenfold, is what they mentioned, right? So tenfold, and again, 10x is going to be that expected growth here for Palantir. And the move comes after analysts at Bank of America remain bullish on Palantir's prospects, citing its recent inclusion in the S&P 500 as a pivotal moment as well. And the company is going to be joining the S&P 500 as of Monday, September 23rd. So that again is a huge accomplishment for the company itself. We've done some analysis on that as well, going over what that's going to mean for ETFs and index funds, and how many trillions of dollars of assets under management and funds need to buy Palantir stock to adjust those weights that are tracking the S&P 500. Now coming over to the big spreadsheet. So this is the road to 1 trillion, and we can kind of adjust this number, and we'll play around with some of the numbers here to better understand, okay, what it's going to take for Palantir to get to those levels. And I've got some very simple 2023 and 2024 numbers in front of me. So 2023 revenues of $2.2 billion with a net income. This is GAAP net income of $210 million, and that was a margin of just over 9.3%. Earnings per share of 9 cents with the shares outstanding of 2.3 billion, and the market cap right now as it stands at $82 billion, right? So that's what I showed you guys earlier in the video. So right now as it stands, price to sales at over 36, because it's trading at 36 times revenue, and a price to earnings multiple of 391 based on 2023. However, the growth rate is going to be well over 400%, almost 300% on a year-over-year basis. So 2024, the expected earnings per share on a GAAP basis is 36 cents per share. That's according to many analyst expectations, consensus out there. Bank of America also essentially projecting for, if you come over here, they've got that on their report for 2024 to be around 34 cents per share. And that is what they are expecting on a EPS basis for the company. So $869 million and 36 cents. We got a margin of 31%, and that of course drops the valuation down significantly from 36 down to 29 times sales and 391 times earnings, dropping it down to 94. And that's where it would potentially be trading at if these numbers were correct in 2024, $2.8 billion worth of revenue. We can essentially compare that, to multiple different platforms. You can come over to TradingView and take a look. So they're expecting 35 cents in earnings per share for 2024, revenues of 2.76 billion. And then you can come over to our very own platform and analyst estimates over here. You'll notice that they are expecting 2024 to be around 36 cents per share and revenues of just over $2.8 billion. So multiple different sources have essentially extrapolated what that 2024 numbers are going to look like for Palantir. Now, getting to $1 trillion means if you were to apply the same multiples, right, 29 times sales and 94 times earnings, keeping it very, very simple, just simply based on a sales multiple standpoint, Palantir would need to achieve well over $34 billion in revenue for the company. And I can also go over to what they would need to achieve from a net income standpoint. So what we're going to do is we're going to essentially take into account this number divided by the 94 times P multiple divided by this number, and we're looking at $10.6 billion in net income, bottom line. So $34 billion of revenue, $10.5 billion of bottom line profit, and that's going to be a margin of about 31%, right? Pretty much constant where we are. Now, of course, margins, if they improve, that multiple's going to come down. But this is just to give you a little bit of an overview of what Palantir needs to hit in revenue, in net income, if the multiples remain constant where they are, right? At 29 times sales, which in my opinion is still very expensive, and a 94 times price to earnings multiple, which in my opinion is going to come down over time. Now, just to go over what's also at stake here with this analysis, $82 billion market cap going to $1 trillion. That's going to be 12 times increase, or just over 1,119% growth for the price for going from 82 billion to 1 trillion, right? That's going to be 12x growth in the market cap, or just over 1,100% growth here. So now what we have here is the different price to sales and price to earnings multiples with different time frames, okay? And what we're really doing here is understanding the compounded annual growth rate that Palantir needs to hit in order to achieve a level where it can be trading at close to $1 trillion in market cap. So allow me to explain. So first table, we've got the price to sales multiple. And as I said earlier, we are right now trading at 29 times sales. So the yellow is where we are currently. And if 30 times sales is where Palantir maintains its multiple, and it needs to get to $1 trillion, so it's very simple math. You're really just taking into account $1 trillion divided by 30, because that's the sales multiple, and you arrive at a revenue number, which I showed you earlier, which is $34 billion. Now, what that $34 billion, what we're doing is we're trying to understand what is going to be that growth rate that Palantir needs to achieve in order to go from 2024, $2.8 billion, to $34 billion, right? So that's what we're going to try to understand is, okay, how many years, what's going to be that growth rate for Palantir to go from 2.8 to $34 billion. So now what we have here is 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years. And so that is the growth rate. That's really just telling you, okay, what kind of top line growth rate, revenue growth rate Palantir needs to achieve in order to get to a revenue number where if we apply a 30 times sales multiple, it can be trading at $1 trillion. So for example, if you are expecting $1 trillion market cap for Palantir in the next 5 years, Palantir needs to maintain a 30 times sales multiple and also grow revenues, which is the top line, by 64% every single year. Every single year, it needs to grow over the next 5 years, 64%, which I don't know about you, but as the numbers get bigger and bigger, it's going to be incredibly challenging for Palantir to grow at that scale. Very few companies, when they are doing, tens of billions of dollars in revenue, are able to grow over 50% every single year. So if we extend that timeline to 7 or 10 or 15 or 20 years, you can see that growth rates come down. Why? Because Palantir's got more time to grow the revenues to over 30 billion, thereby demanding a 30 times sales multiple, and of course approaching up to $1 trillion market cap. Now, what this table also shows you is that if the price to sales multiple decreases over time, so as numbers get bigger and bigger, if price to sales multiple comes down, and of course we've got an extended timeline, what those growth rates need to be. Same thing we have done with price to earnings, right? So right now trading at 90 times earnings multiple over a 5-year period, Palantir would need to grow their bottom line profit by over 66% every single year over the next 5 years in order to get to that $1 trillion threshold. If we extend that timeline to 7 years, 43%, 29%, 18%, and 13.5%. So over 20 years, if they're just able to consistently grow bottom line profit by 13.5%, in 20 years, there's very much a possibility that Palantir could be trading at well over $1 trillion, but that also means a 90 times earnings multiple. And I don't know a lot of companies in the big tech space that are trading at 90 times earnings multiple. NVIDIA in the 30s, Apple, Amazon in the 20s and 30s, Google, Meta, again, in the low 20s. Tesla might be the only one, but it's also not a $1 trillion company. So 90 times, that multiple is also going to come down. So you can also see that on this table, that as it normalizes closer to 40 or 50 or 30, again, the growth rate needs to be higher over longer time frames. I mean, in 5 years, Palantir would need to be growing at over 85 to as much as 95% in bottom line profit and be trading at 30 to 50 times earnings multiple in order to achieve that $1 trillion threshold. So this is simply math. This is just numbers. This is not going over the stories that, Palantir's got this or that. It's got artificial intelligence. It's got all these different contracts and expansions. Everything is going to eventually trickle into the numbers, right? Everything is going to make its way over to the revenues and cash flows and profits. And that's what we're trying to understand. So in my opinion, if you were to extend this timeline to 10 plus years, I think there is a path to Palantir getting up to that figure of $1 trillion. Now, what would be, in my opinion, the most probabilistic, I don't know if that's a word, most probable outcome for Palantir, in my personal opinion, is going to be looking at the 10-year time frame and also looking at a multiple, which is going to be closer to the median or the average in its industry. Yes, it's a cloud-based artificial intelligence provider. Data science, very high margins. There's going to be expansion in margins as well over time. More efficient. There's going to be higher levels of operating leverage. So in my opinion, margins are going to get better, and it can demand such high multiples. But in my opinion, I think it's going to eventually come down. Closer to 20 times sales feels a little bit more appropriate. So if I were to simply look at 20 times sales multiple for Palantir in the 10 to 15 year time frame, I think it's possible for Palantir to grow revenues by 21 to as much as 33%. If there's a snowball effect, if more and more companies start to really realize what Palantir can do for them, not only from a point of view of increasing revenue, but also reducing cost. And again, it's just really, in my opinion, the data is going to be the new gold for most companies, right? We've collected so much data, and we need a company that's going to be able to make it sense for these businesses so that they can actually increase revenues, become more efficient, reduce cost, and overall grow their business. So as that snowball effect takes into full account here, I think a 10 to 15 year time horizon with a 20% CAGR on the top line is going to put us at the best spot to getting up to over $1 trillion market cap. And then also, if you come over to the price to earnings, in my opinion, I think that number is going to come down slowly and steadily. In other words, price to earnings multiple going to normalize closer to 40, 50, might even be lower as numbers get bigger and bigger. So if we're looking at 40 to 50 times, and if you look at 10, maybe 15 years out, I think 23 to 25%. So this right here would be something ideally what I would be looking at from the perspective of what is possible for Palantir, right? So this would be sort of my expectation of what would be the very clear path to Palantir getting up to $1 trillion. So what this table really does is that you can pause this and you can really just take a look at what Palantir needs to accomplish in order to get to that $1 trillion market cap, simply and purely based on math. That's it. And this right here is just showing us the increase in the overall revenue and the earnings that Palantir needs to accomplish in order to get to that level. So in other words, this 30 times sales, it would need to grow net income by over 38 times. Right now, as it stands, it only needs to grow revenues by 12 times because it's trading at such a high multiple, 30 times sales, and a 90 times earnings multiple, so it only needs to grow profit by 13 times. But as those multiples come down, it would need to grow to a much bigger number. In other words, the revenues and the profits need to be much bigger in order for Palantir to get to that $1 trillion market cap. So like I said, in my opinion, as numbers get bigger, it's going to normalize a little bit closer to 15 to 20 times sales, which would essentially mean 21 to 23% growth in top line revenues over a 15-year period, which is also very difficult, but Amazon has done it. Google has done it. Meta has done it. So a lot of these big tech companies have done it. They've grown revenues by well over 20% compounded over 15 to 20-year periods. Very few companies are able to do it. And if there's one company, I think Palantir is one of them, that has the potential to do it. And then, of course, you've got 40 to 50 times price to earnings, which would put us, 15-year, 20-year at 25 to as much as 16, 18% growth for the company as well. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And, where do you see Palantir eventually? Do you see it in the $1 trillion club or not? And if we just look at it from a perspective of, let's say, 500 billion, right? That's going to be 6x growth from where it is right now, over 500% more from where it is trading right now. And then, of course, you've got lower growth rates that Palantir needs to achieve in order to simply 6x from where we are at the moment. Go from 82 billion to well over $500 billion is a lot more doable than going from 82 billion to $1 trillion. But both of them are a possibility. Again, it's just understanding what is going to be a higher probability outcome and what needs to be done, what needs to be accomplished in order for us to get to that level. So for example, for $500 billion, 10-year time frame, 24 to 28%. If multiples were to come down, if multiples were to be maintained, 20% growth in revenue needs to be achieved for Palantir over a 10-year period in order to get to over $500 billion in market cap, trading at 30 times sales, and trading at 90 times earnings over a 10-year period. Palantir just needs to grow its profit by over 20% compounded every single year over 10 years to get to $500 billion, and essentially 6x from where we are right now. So hopefully you found this video a little bit more interesting, a bit of a different type of analysis, but you can essentially take a look at this table and figure out, okay, what can Palantir really accomplish with its numbers? Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to the numbers and what every single piece of story, every single piece of contract that they're winning, expansion with their existing customers, government or commercial revenue, whatever it boils down to, how is that going to reflect the bottom line and, of course, the top line, the top and the bottom line revenue and the profits. And that's how we can extrapolate and work backwards to figure out, okay, what is Palantir? What do they actually need to do in order to achieve the $1 trillion market cap? So that's where we are. Resistance for Palantir is going to stay put all the way up to $44, $45, as we have already discussed. It's pretty much the all-time high. Congratulations to all Palantir investors and traders. Absolutely incredible momentum coming in from low sixes, up over 500%. And in order for us to go another 500%, as I discussed in this spreadsheet, and to go to well over $200, these are some of the numbers that Palantir needs to hit based on different multiples. So have a discussion down in the comment section below. You can also join our Discord and have a discussion there. Make sure that you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with other Palantir traders and investors. As always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.